Testing. We're good. We are recording.
Thank you and good morning. I'm Chair Michael Griffith, and I'd like to welcome everyone and call this meeting in order of the McMinnville Historic Zoning Commission. Today is Tuesday, May the 31st. It's 10 a.m. And first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 26th regular meeting, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approves. The next on the agenda, the chair would like to recognize the esteemed Scott Moore for Moore's Office Supply Certificate of Appropriateness. Mr. Moore, esteemed, please step to the stadium. It's the stadium, the podium.
Actually, real quick before Mr. Moore starts on that, I want to introduce Sean Garrett. Sean is our new community planner here with the city. Sean's already been real helpful. I think today is day 5, I believe. But he was actually one of the first things I gave him was the COAs that we have today to review those. So he is actually going to be doing the staff report on the first 3 items that we have on the agenda today. It was great to just get him in and get him start working. So we welcome Sean.
Sean, welcome, and we appreciate what you're doing for McMinnville, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Mr. Moore,
Yes, sir.
please carry on.
All right. I'm looking for approval for a rear door in the back of my building up at 232 East Main Street. I am in the process of remodeling my building for renters downtown. Got a couple leases ready to sign once we get everything done, but I am going to need a rear door. And I am wanting door access into the city mall. If you look at that plan, I've got location, I've got some pictures of the location that I want, which is in between the monument and the, I guess, the archway. And I would like to have that access door there. I am going to put a 36 door with a 1-foot slat beside of it with hopefully an awning above it to make a nice entrance into the back.
And Mr. Moore, when you say the rear entrance, when we looked at your application, it looks like you prefer actually the entrance on the side.
I do.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the entrance to the back, I would have to have MTUD to come and to reroute my gas meter.
Mhm.
And also because the farmer's market concrete walkway extends about 4 feet out past my building, I would need to put a sidewalk there because, well, with it being the downspout of my building, there's a lot of water that rolls off of that. So I would want that entrance to be higher than the water flow off the back. But I would like for it to be, personally, I would like for it to be in the city mall. That would just make better sense.
Also, point of clarification for the board is with the city mall, is there any kind of, where is the actual property boundary? Because, you know, Scott, I know that building's been in your family for a long time. I'm assuming the property line behind the building goes out further than what it does on the side. Is the city mall just a direct abutment to the Moore's building? Is
I
that,
believe it is a 0 lot line. Now we
Okay.
can double check. I'll look on the.
Scott, do you have a knowledge of the property line with the city?
Well,
What's
we are-
your understanding?
Okay, while we have begun this process, we are having more surveying to come and to establish an
Okay.
exact
Boundary.
boundary.
Okay.
I do know that 75% of that building, the front part of that building was a shared wall with whatever used to be the theater.
Correct.
but now that that has gone, I'm not sure that what part of that's the confusion is what that was, that shared wall.
Mhm.
But I am pretty sure that the back wall, this particular wall, was not a shared wall.
I would assume that the side wall is just because I haven't looked.
Looks.
And there's nothing on the other side of that for it to
It's
even
zero
share
lot
with.
line here, with the shared with the alley that is building good right. I'm assuming, I mean, I don't know that for sure, but. just the way everything looks.
Yeah, it's showing pretty much as a 0 lot line.
Okay.
I think that is it, right?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
That's his building.
That's my building.
And then if you can see, it's a little bit off of, just because of the difference between the aerial photo and the county assessor, but and there's Vanilla Bean. I mean, it's more or less a 0 lot line right there.
It looks like it's 0 lot line all the way around. doesn't it?
Yeah, that was my understanding prior, is that it was 0 lot line. I just thought I would double check. But yeah, it looks like it is. So this time I'd like to have Sean kind of go through his review of the application, and then just so we can discuss it further.
Okay, so review, the main guideline that would tied to this proposal would be guideline 2 of the development of rear entrances, especially those that will provide access to parking, will be encouraged. There's 4 subsets in there. Removal of store materials for rear entrance is not recommended. Like materials and similar architectural styles should be used to enhance rear side entrances. Use of courtyards, patios, and landscaping around rear entrances will be allowed, and rear entrances used frequently by the public do not have to replicate the front facade. With that, the style of this door is not necessarily going to represent the front facade. We reviewed both the side location and the rear location. I'm kind of in agreement. Either one meets. The side location will make things a little bit easier and a little bit less disruptions if they're not having to move gas lines and redo gutters and put sidewalks in and that type of stuff, which could have a possible more effect on things. But
Yeah,
either one would meet the guidelines.
Yeah, if we do the very back, then I'm gonna have to readjust that gutter, which is going to be because that is the building gutter system comes out right there. And I just don't want, and it is going to be a customer entrance, and I don't want them walking through water, because there's a lot of water that flows out through that when it rains.
And then the proposed awning also meets the guidelines for the district as well that go above.
The monument that's nearby there, will that be disturbed or be
No.
close to that?
That's about 8 to 10 feet between the monument and the archway.
Okay, so the picture makes it look closer than it
Yes,
actually really
That
is.
was a concern.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's far enough away.
It's
So
gonna
you
be
won't
centered,
block
it's
it.
gonna be centered between the archway and the monument, the door that I want, which is gonna be roughly, the opening will be 4 feet.
And then there'd be a couple feet on each side of it.
There's gonna be a couple feet on each side of it.
So I know this is stupid, but is that door gonna open out or in?
I would think that the codes is gonna make me to open that out.
Come
So,
out.
For egress.
That would be
This
what
way.
I mean, for,
Yeah, so against the.
I would say through fire marshal, I would have to have it open out. Is that?
Right. Also
Probably,
make sure.
yeah, for egress, generally for the exit doors,
Yeah.
especially since that's gonna be a fire exit hallway, it'll probably.
Yeah.
open
Yeah,
out.
I think from a fire code perspective, there'd be something that would,
Yeah, so it would.
would
open
address that
against the
concern.
archway then.
but that would,
But my plan is initially for it to be opened out.
so you're saying towards the back parking lot?
I was actually gonna have it open towards the monument.
Okay.
I mean, to swing open towards the monument. That way, when if for instance, it is a fire,
Oh, yeah.
they're coming out and they're able to access straight to the parking lot other than
Yeah.
going straight out and around the door.
I
Does
see.
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
With the awning, it's painted metal, is it going to be, I guess, in line with the color of the rest of the building, or do you have any kind of thoughts on what?
Well, right now, I haven't decided on the color of the building, of the back of the building. I have a hard time. I'm still in that thought process of the color of the back of the building, because right past these pictures, my building is brick. So the only back quarter of my building is a block wall painted. Right now it is painted red to match the brick, but we are determining whether we're probably going to paint it a off-white with the door and the awning to be in black or a dark gray. That is right now what we're thinking about it, but I wasn't going to determine a color until I determined what color the awning was and then use that as the off color. But I do want the awning. I do not want a fabric awning. I can't stand the look of those after about 5 years.
Thank you. Scott, not to get ahead of ourselves, but just to make sure with the, with the request for the door, again, I see the city mall signage.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts about signage for your particular tenant being on that?
Well, the signage, for any signage that I'm allowed, in one of my pictures, you see part of my sign. My tenant's signage will be in this area.
Okay, so there would be no signage above this
No,
door.
there would not be any signage above the door.
Okay.
May allow them, we may put a directory on the wall,
Okay. Understand.
but it's.
I was just trying to get ahead of the fact that I didn't
Yeah.
want to get into, not that the city mall signage is iconic, but perhaps it is. David and Sean may, comment on that, but I didn't want to.
Yeah,
Because
I'm not planning on.
It is a courtesy of you to allow the city mall to be attached to your building, the signage to be attached to your building.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't want to affect that city mall signage.
Right.
at all.
Very
I may, based on the awning, I may have to have it raised,
okay,
but
Now
I
it's-
still think it needs to be identified. That's the city mall.
agreed.
Does that make sense?
David, Sean, do y'all have any other comments on this?
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's great that he doesn't want to have a business sign there. I don't know if we really have a regulation that would address that. But having said that, I'm very happy that that's not part of the request, that he's got it. He's going to keep it on the front and the back of the building.
I mean, well, my thought process, nobody's going to see that side much anyway,
Yeah. But you're going to get more visibility
through the
With-
back.
with the back and the front. And I'd have to look back at our actual sign code, not the historic zoning code, but I'm not sure if there'd be an additional sign would be allowed there or not. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the preferred
Well, yeah,
route for him and for the city.
So from staff, the recommendation for location number 2, which is to exit onto the city mall, would be appropriate from the city's
well, actually,
perspective.
that's
That's
location
correct.
one.
I'm sorry, location number 1.
Yeah, location 1 or location 2 is appropriate from the city.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to approve Mr. Moore's request. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Need me anymore?
Think you're dismissed, sir.
I
You're
need to
welcome
go
to
sell
stay.
some, I need to go sell some office.
If he decides to put up a sign, that comes back.
Yes, if he decides to put up a sign, it would come back to the historic zoning, and we would also review it from the sign code perspective. That's correct. Yeah, today was just the approval of the awning and in the door. The sign would be an additional application.
Okay, next on the agenda is First Methodist Church Certificate of Appropriateness application. So see County Executive Haley, and welcome everyone up here to the front. Thank you. Go ahead. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful. The floor is yours.
Let me start, just to begin with. The existing signposts that were there had a sign on it for our Hispanic ministry that was there in the outreach building for First Methodist for several years. And when the church signed an agreement with the Department of Labor, the State Department of Labor, to allow the high set GED program to be in there, they slapped a little vinyl sign on the top of the Latino service sign. And that stayed for a couple of years. And then the state of Tennessee decided they needed a more permanent sign. And they came without telling us basically and took down the metal portion between the two posts and said we were getting a new sign. So I know in some instances, the state of Tennessee is considered exempt from signage. And so this is a state of Tennessee Department of Labor, but since the property does belong to First Methodist Church and I'm chair of church council, that we thought we needed to go through the proper process and make sure everything was done correctly as far as the permit, as far as what the sign is going to look like. Kelly may know more about that because they have not reached out to me. I just assume it'll be similar to the sign that we had before, except it's going to be more permanent and on the same type of material that it was before. But other than that, I don't know.
Kelly, have they give you any renderings yet at this time?
They did. It's in the packet. Do you have?
The actual, yeah, it's that one,
That's it.
yes.
It's red, white, and blue.
Yeah, and for anyone who does have it in color, we could probably get it on the large screen if need be.
It's like a 44 by 36.
Okay.
44 inch by 36 inch.
So is that going where this black sign is in the photo? There, you got the First Methodist white sign
Yes.
next to it, and then it's the
Mhm.
black sign.
That's it.
Okay.
A little bit more visibility to the program. So
Sure.
We've been expanding the program quite a bit. We've got bilingual high-set program now.
Well,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
church,
the
the
ESL.
church is very generous for a lot of different community events and things. And does staff have any opinion on this?
Yeah, just go to Sean's staff report.
So staff recommends approval of the sign. While it doesn't fall within the 5 general categories of where we want the signs placed, this is an existing sign located on the backside of the building and in that parking lot. And so with that, it's not going to create a false sense of a historic sign or anything of that nature. It's not going to be oversized for what they're trying to promote. And so staff does not have any issues with the placement of the sign.
Thank you. With the staff recommending the approval, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the sign.
I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Kelly,
Thank
Jimmy.
you.
All right, next up is Three Sisters Candle Company. Is that you, Cassie? Yes. Go ahead.
I would like to install an exterior sign in the front of my building, which will hang from the awning, and you should have a picture of it. It's just my logo. And then,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, actually, let me get this. It shows where it would hang
mhm,
and then also the actual sign itself.
right.
You can see it here.
Yeah, and then I've also applied for, we have the Main Street Center sign in the back. I would like to put my logo on 2 of the panels for that existing sign as well.
This would be a continuation of what we've already approved for Begonia, Southern Traditions, and Tattoo on the pylon sign out back. And I'm most certain this sign that will hang down is probably in line with a lot of the other signage that's affiliated with that, or a little bit
We don't
different.
actually have any signs hanging from the awning. Cassie's will be the first.
Okay.
Hoping that it encourages the others to do it as well. But there are no hanging signs. Now, historically, when it was Fraley's, there was quite a bit of hanging signs there, but as we remodeled, there's not any currently.
Sean, we'll go ahead and recognize you.
Okay, so staff recommends approval of both signs. The first sign stated by the applicant is going to be within a sign board that's pre-existing. The other sign that will be placed on the awning meets the guidelines, and staff has no concerns with the placement of that sign.
David, do these need to be separated, the motions, or can they be combined, both requests?
They can be combined in one request.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the signs for both requests for the Three Sisters Candle Company.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And yes, I hope it will encourage the others
I do
to hang
too.
a sign.
I've been trying to push that a little bit, but so I'm hoping Cassie getting hers, it will.
It will pop that,
Right.
it separates.
Well, and two, when you're standing down on the corner, just to be able to see it, I mean, because everybody has vinyl on their windows, but for it to be hanging, you can see it down the sidewalk,
Yeah.
it'll help a lot.
Yeah, that would enunciate that between
Mhm.
begonias you know, all those.
Right.
So there's additions, makes that. So, yeah.
I know that he has talked about it, and the guy is also, everybody has discussed it, just nobody's moved forward. with
It seems like it'll be the right thing for Main Street because it is the strangest thing that you can't tell what's there.
Right,
Except
until
you can
you
look
get
across the
right.
street to see what's over there.
Yeah.
That's
too.
right.
At this time, continuing in the, your agenda packet, the discussion for wooden window requirements within the historic district. So David, would that be your discussion?
Yes, it would be. And I put down, we're not in your packet. We weren't unfortunately able to get it in it, but I want to, there's a sheet that I put before each of the members. It says emailed question and response. I emailed this to Elaine Hurd, who is the Certified Local Government Coordinator. I mentioned the last meeting that we had. This was a discussion topic. It was brought to us by Joe O'Neill while he had, there's actually an awning that he had proposed and was approved, but he wanted to also bring this to your attention. And so what I said I would do at that meeting is contact our contacts at the state and ask about wooden windows, whether that would have any impact upon any grants. And so I'll just read out loud my question and their response. My question, as we discussed during your trip to McMinnville, and they're doing the same people as doing the survey. The topic of wooden windows has been a hot topic during the existence of historic zoning within our city. If we were to make a decision to permit some vinyl windows within our historic zoning district, do you know of any grant opportunities that business owners would no longer be eligible for? Her response is, it would likely disqualify from the federal historic tax credit, Tennessee's historic development grant, and our office's historic preservation fund, which prioritizes properties that are owned by a nonprofit or local government. So those programs all require properties to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. We are not listed. Our local historic district is not on the National Register of Historic Places. And so she goes on to say, eligibility for the National Register requires both historical significance and integrity, how closely a resource retains its historic appearance. Replacement vinyl wooden windows would adversely affect integrity. This would likely make individual buildings not eligible for the National Register, could make the district not eligible, and would therefore impact eligibility for the above grant. So in short, I think what's important to take out of this is that if we were to move forward with that proposal, it could affect our desire to move towards a National Register of Historic Places. That is not something we have today. So the question is, does it affect the impact of the historic district today? My interpretation of that is that it would be minimal. However, if it does cause serious concerns if we were to move forward with a National Register of Historic Places. Now, our downtown, the key part of downtown, not the whole historic zoning district, but the key area that's really on Main Street is really the area that could be eligible for that, I think. We have discussed that, not at length, but just in passing before. So basically it would be a decision that could affect the standing of that. So that's kind of where we are with that. So just wanted to report back and then let you guys hear your thoughts.
There is no upcoming request that you're aware of?
No, there is no request to shift that today. And I would not have, if that's the decision that the Historic Zoning Commission wants to move forward with, then I myself and staff are completely fine with that decision. But I do want it to let people know that could impact that issue should someone want to bring that forward.
You know, and dabbling in some tax credits myself, you run into a situation like that where one section of the district may want the ease of a vinyl window, but then also be at a detriment for the rest of the district. to attain
That's-
taxability. So I,
That's a very valid point. I think that our historic, having reviewed it temporarily, and I'm not the expert on this, but I'll say there are sections of our historic zoning commission that I feel quite comfortable saying would not in no way be eligible for the National Register.
sure.
There are areas that are, for sure. And they're more eligible today than when these were put together.
Is there a possibility to have a zone within a zone, for lack of a better terminology?
There-
So
There absolutely is, and that's something, we've discussed here before. And I think that that adds even more credence to that idea.
I could see, things, for example, where my office is, where Security Federal, we're within the historic district, but not, the most historic of the historic district.
Yeah, no, that's-
So to incentivize development to take place on that upper end of the block where you could get quote unquote a little looser on the windows versus where I would not want to, this board to prevent, say, Dan Sellers or Ben Myers, both that are in the more historic area, if we did something that precluded them from getting some sort of tax credit. So we have to kind of be good stewards of the area. So I think this is for informational purposes only. Does any other board have any
Yeah.
questions or comments?
Because there's already several buildings on Main Street that do have vinyl windows that I
That
guess
is
did it
true.
without, approval or anything like that. How does that affect, because they currently already have it?
Sure. So as I read her response and speaking to her, that there's no like bright line on this that says, 70, you're ineligible if 75% of your buildings don't have this, or, but if you get to a certain point where the vast majority of buildings don't have that, then you've kind of hit the point of no return, so to speak. And so, yes, there were a few years where I would say regulation wasn't as tight. And you see that impact. But are we at a point where we've reached the point of no return, so to speak? I don't think we've reached that point yet. But if we were to make this decision, I think quite quickly, we would realistically, we would be removing ourselves from eligibility from those programs pretty quickly. Now, I think what would be worthwhile as just a staff recommendation is I'm not the expert on all that these programs entail and the cost benefit analysis to a property owner as to, hey, if I were in this program, what would that mean to me as a property owner? Now, there are people that are, these people we are a member of what we call the Certified Local Government Program. They're helping us with a survey. I think it would be great for them to come and share with you guys what they know about the program and kind of give you a better idea of what that means. Because, I think it's hard if I were a property owner, it'd be difficult for me to know which side to support based on not knowing the details of what that program grants me, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to, I don't think I would be comfortable making that change, knowing that the impact could reach us above the point of no return quite quickly, because I think if you're an individual owner, that there's a huge benefit now based on the cost of vinyl versus wooden. And I understand that. I just don't, from our staff perspective, I wouldn't want to make a change that would then let's say if we did make this change, then 6 months later, we have a lot more vinyl windows. Somebody comes in and says, hey, can I apply for this? And we say, well, because we've made this decision, it's going to be difficult to do it. So I think in speaking with our downtown owners as downtown business owners, I do think that they could benefit by learning more about these programs to determine if that's the path they want to move forward with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We wanna be
And
careful.
Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully we can continue to gather more information like this. This is very helpful. And I think that, this board now has the benefit of, the if not but for situation, because I think downtown in general, the historic has certainly reached another plateau. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's where we're getting into the vinyl is going to be a deal breaker where somebody's going to move forward with the project. I think they're going to go forward with it now because they want to be in the area in general.
Mhm.
So I think I would rather just kind of leave it like it is for now for informational purposes and not take any kind of action on it and continue to gather that information. And you guys just keep us abreast of what's going on.
So the certified local government group, I've mentioned to you guys that they're redoing the survey, which is hugely helpful. They've been here once and they've done half of it. It might be possible to schedule them to come back on the day that we actually had a historic zoning meeting.
Would be wonderful.
Because I would like for them to, and to even, maybe even in a Main Street McMinnville meeting as well, because I'd like for our downtown property owners to be able to make an educated view for themselves as to which path would make sense, because there is some real funding there, but again, I'm not the expert on that, but they know a lot about that. So I'd love to have them
And
come.
there's no distinguishing that we know of right now, or differentiation between the wood on the bottom and the vinyl on the top. That's
Yes, it's from these programs perspective, I don't think they're going to look at it that way. I feel confident in saying that. But yeah, as far as what I really think would be great for our downtown owners is to see, what kind of pots of money are out there. What does that mean? What does that really get you as an individual property owner? Obviously, there are things that cities themselves like to have to kind of distinguish and, market themselves. But I think for an individual owner, you really need to see what the dollars and cents make.
Would that be something that you would be willing to work forward with setting up
Yes.
a presentation like that for the future, and then maybe reach out to Main Street, the other sister organizations that might benefit to kind of have it on a day when we meet and they could be in attendance?
Yeah,
Great.
that's what I'm thinking. I
Fabulous.
would like for it to be more than just this committee,
Absolutely.
but also the Main Street business owners, so that they
Fantastic.
can really, something similar to what we did with like a listening session before
Yeah.
with Main Street on a different topic, obviously. But so yeah, I'm comfortable with us moving
Great.
in that direction.
Any other discussions about that requirement? We'll just kind of appreciate the information.
The tax breaks would have to be very significant after renovating several historic homes and buildings. The vinyl windows and the way they look now are so much better.
Yeah. So it really is a cost benefit analysis to see whether the tax credit makes sense.
Yeah, and that's, one point I made at a previous meeting is that you got to remember that when we wrote these guidelines, when we as a city, the materials for vinyl windows were nowhere near what they are today. And I think that's an important point. But having said that,
Well, and not all vinyl
Yeah.
windows are equal either.
That's-
I mean,
yeah.
there's a low end and a high end. vinyl,
Yeah.
So.
and those are the kind of things that we can regulate through it. You could have some type of higher end vinyl as a requirement if you were to move forward in that manner. So.
Next item on the agenda is item number 7, request to remove the blue building from the historic district.
Yes, so as I think everyone's probably aware of, through the RFP process, a potential buyer was selected through that process. And they have been working through to create what they call a tax increment financing proposal that'll be to the city. And so the city itself has entered into a purchase and sell agreement with investment partners. And in that, there is a clause that was agreed to, and it says, should buyer so request, the property shall have been removed from the historic zoning district. That the investment partners have requested that be removed from the historic district. The a little bit of background on this property. Originally, this property was not in the historic zoning district. It is actually the only property that has been added or subtracted since the original district. So the process that will go forward with this is it will be a recommendation from the Historic Zoning Commission. From there, the Planning Commission will meet on it, make a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen will make a decision. Once we get to the Planning Commission stage and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen stage, we will treat it just like any other rezoning request. Our regulations are a little bit vague as to what process needs to occur here at the Historic Zoning Commission. There is a process that discusses adding properties, but it does not really discuss removing. However, in our interpretation, we felt that it needed first to come to this committee, and then we would move forward with that. So
My personal thoughts are the planned development for the property, to have a residential development of that scale and magnitude in downtown. I think it would be cumbersome for it to always come as their plans to come before this particular board.
yeah.
I think that's outside of the scope of this particular board. I too think that it's probably vague whether we vote and render an opinion today on removing it, but I think it's certainly the right thing to do to incentivize the use of that property. And again, it was always kind of an outlier. I think I remember why it was put in, but needless to say, it's the intent, in my opinion, to proceed with this board rendering our opinion to remove it. So I would like to formalize that and entertain a motion to formally request that the blue building be removed from the historic zoning.
I so move.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Motion carries.
And I will have to abstain from that.
Please note that Rachel Kirby abstains from that vote.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussions?
I think that's it for today. Again, thanks to Sean, made it real helpful with getting everything out, and
Welcome on board, Sean.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
and so we look forward to having him. But other than that, I will say we do have a couple of applications that did not quite make the deadline, but I do expect that they will be on next month's agenda. So I do expect us to have a meeting next month.
Very good.
Okay.
Anything else to come forward, board? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Should I like before I wanted to.
For next month, I'll be back on the 27th. I'm leaving for Colorado for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Ask you if we had a sheet throw up going there, they did,
And I'll be back in the office June 27th, so similar to
about every 2 years.
we still have the 27th, 28th.
Yeah, it'd be the 28th.
28th.
That's the normal date, so you shouldn't miss that.
Colorado you go? I am going to Colorado Springs for a week. To Georgetown.
I come from 45 minutes south of Colorado.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I'm going out there.
Those are the ones that get you.
Going up to see David Justin over at so we're excited about that. I've never been to Telluride, so this is I'm excited to get that. Part of it. Looking forward to it. All right, very good. Thank y'all.
All right.
Still want to do lunch. I'm just-
Yeah. Hey, we've been slammed on our end, and that's why I'm happy Sean's here, is that's because, yeah, I mean, it was getting to be more than a full-time job.
Well, I can
So-
July. I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, you can do that.
Take care of that.
Yep.
So on the survey, I think in the dictation, which we use, more like national. Building building? What's the scope of the
Yeah, I mean, I think they could at that point, really, if it was a service. But that's a great question to ask them as to see how much we've got.
Yeah.
Because that make it.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not.
Oh, okay. Well, we talked about it being here, but I'll call it.
Yes.
I will.
Is anybody actually?
And I need to call it. It looks like Steve Harvey called it too.
You know, the big one.
Hey, how you doing?
So,
Unless there's lots of, unless there's just no portion of it.
right, yeah, I mean, if they wanna. But I think we need to discuss it quite a bit more and get more information on it.
That's fine. Glad you left me out of it.
It's. That's the only reason I'm comfortable. I trust him, you know, his track record speaks for himself, so. Yeah.
Give you all your love shots.
Yeah. Like some kink. Yeah. We just got back from the. Well, no, we went to the National Range Conference to ration it. And so that was, how fun was that? I feel like we came back and and I'm glad that there's obviously discussing the budget. So phase 3, talking to the bench people and trying to take it easy on us. Main Street can partner to benches and trash cans and some. Yeah. Yeah, we recorded that. Well, and actually. I mean, well, I sat in a meeting or a session at the conference, so it was actually about design guidelines and historic guidelines and stuff. And it said, you know, you really need to, a lot of commissions, they just set their guidelines. Hey girl, how are you? They don't go back. How are you? Or guidelines they haven't actually hit. Okay. So I definitely, it's not just windows. We need to go. And see what we're, because with the whole sign, you know, so it's just, it's things like. We need to. Yeah. What you get to, yeah, that was a rough one to come out. Really fast. And that girl, I mean, because Chad's actually joining the ministry board now. But they're, I think that they're very involved and helped it. So I think that everybody would vote at this point. I think that they're good. And 2, especially when talking about phase 3, I mean, that's going to directly affect so directly affect them as far as the revitalization down the street. So
I believe so.
They're
gonna say yes. Tell me why I said yes.
It was already a top chair. You were very correct. Yeah,
It's like that's never happened.
We cannot get their TV show. We had already about it in recession, so no, I don't know how to do it.
My wife is.
And now we're just cheering. I mean, they're good.
Yeah, right.
College, she's
I
like.
didn't think it was fair that they had been told.
You're cooking out. A lot of that, she's like, yeah.
Make some plays. That's good. That's good. Yeah. I just didn't think it was fair. I mean, because
I know.
something like that can take us all business. That was kind of where I was really torn. And I was ready to get there. I started water allergies. I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot. I think she will show. You know, yeah. That's how it's. I can't even do that. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, we say, yeah, could do without the color. It looks like a house. Yeah. They weren't gonna, and we didn't even ask. How are you?
I'm fine. You're in the right place for variance.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you are. It's gonna start shortly.
Okay, great.
We haven't even asked them that they're gonna put up like the Main Street line up on there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just, so they're trying to at least be, help promoting other stuff with it. At least it's right there too for you. It's the entryway, right? So you can. I'll be so. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't know because I swapped my prescriptions up there and I was at Walgreens and I would send it into Walgreens. It would be hours when prescription was leaving. I went over there the other day and just walked in and was expecting just to ask them to refill it and come back later. They did have it. Yes. And I walked up to the prescription. I was just like blown away. You know, she can. Yeah, you know, the fact that they are able to drive them too, that's a big thing, especially for the older generation that don't want to get out of the car and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that they have that. I wish people would start that. Yeah. It used to be, yeah, you know, that's true. Yeah. You were dead. Somewhere on there, friend of Thanksgiving. Yeah. I love those. That was one thing that I saw. It was just wasn't necessarily that building, but it was giant life size chessboard.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
How cool is it to be like on the green grass or something? You're just good. And there were people that were playing it. Like there was a crowd around and watching. It was just kind of. Yeah, no, I mean, these are stones that they're set on and then the pieces. I mean, yeah. Right. Mhm.
I love it.
I came back with a lot of ideas from Europe too, and but also the conference, just the things we can do down here.
I bet you they're at all times.
Yeah. Like one of their wives is shopping on fans, you know, with the cafe or whatever. She's talking.
Is the roof in the one was there?
Yeah.
Oh, there are little wooden chairs at the side of the machine.
Yeah. was fun. Yeah. The basement, which is very dugout, they said that there used to be a staircase. And Jenny had actually directed it, but the city mayor and all that said they get together on Thursday afternoons after lunch. And so I mean, we should have because whenever Ken bought that building, they were cleaning it out with all sorts of old wine bottles and whiskey bottles, everything down there. So we, you know, it lines up with it, but I mean, just that whole atmosphere. People just come out and just.
She used the closet kings. She used it my lids.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And you think, so. City of
Oh, I do know.
Rye, but
It's,
they have their own board or something.
I have a board. If they decide. Gosh.
That's
See,
a
clear side.
I feel bad about
Sugar
myself.
free is the
No,
plan.
thank you.
I've just seen a chance over and over again.
That usually Memphis has artificial stuff.
People think
No,
that's
this doesn't.
and
Actually,
there's
it
other
does.
versions that-
I'm serious.
Splendor.
So I think.
Is it really?
I don't know.
I
Usually,
I
appreciate that.
No.
It all.
I was stealing from my friends.
But I can do that
Good things.
especially with the older buildings like that haven't redone the plumbing and stuff and stuff. And they can't let the public use the restroom.
I've been here long enough. I know it's bad.
A lot of them are rented, so they don't have the option, but so the store, a lot of the stores, of course, restaurants have the public restrooms, a lot of the stores don't have public restrooms.
I'm so,
And then
I
when
just
people
got
are
myself.
shopping, I mean, I've heard it from multiple.
We had a new city administrator once, and he's shocked. Because I just kind of like- So I went into his office and left a little note.
Right.
I said, "We're security stuff." LOL.
Yeah. Right. Well, you used to this whole thing, do the outdoors, you know, like, they hear with the chair, and that kind of stuff, but if we almost, I don't know, I've just been thinking, without even being an option for the city, like, one back here, by the influence side and stuff, public restroom or something in that. Yeah. It just helps. I mean, if you don't have, you can say it's or don't, whatever it is, you can say it right now, you know, but, you know, you said, then, you know, back when it was, but also has a presence of revenue to be able to pay the public works to clean. And then restrooms.
Hey,
How are you?
good, how are you?
I guess I need to get out of here.
Tired. Happy all week, girl.
You're gonna freeze.
Yeah.
That's my deal. For some reason, I thought my phone comes
Oh.
in.
How are you?
I just. at the-
Good. Spring Street. I'm just here to speak on that. On Brock.
All right, I'll get out of your way. You need a holiday after the holiday.
Yeah.
Yesterday, you know. Yeah. I didn't get to work.
How'd y'all get home?
Oh, see you right. Sorry. It was too crowded. I don't get one.
I think that's me.
Started at Lennon.
Oh, I love it. I mean, that's seriously where.
Excuse me.
Oh, I can get ready for this. I get my t-shirts. They're not. I've got two of her lipsticks. I just love them.
Yeah, I get my vitamin C serum from there, but it was great.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Christine. I just wanted to send you this information.
Thank you.
Hi, Christine. I just wanted to get this information.
Put his name on it?
But, she's supposed to do a color version too, but let's go ahead and test. Okay, yeah, it's, big.
Yes, yes. It's deep. I'll text you, it's deep. Yeah. Text you. And one in. At Gmail. Thank you.
We got everything up there.
How you doing, Jim? I'm doing fine. Who are you? Doing fine, thank you.
Right on time.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, do you have those? Yeah. Are they both of them?
This will be the time.
Which one?
For the 6 months.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So on this one, we're recommending approval per to the water and sewer review, because there's a lot going on up there. To just know that's bigger. One of the issues is that it's right here. The sewer goes to right here, and so they could have a pump station here. But I called water and sewer today. And,
Okay.
yes, and they basically have to research this issue. So it's approval of, right, the septic tank, but the question is, do they require, is there a requirement from where this is to get onto the city sewer? So basically we'll be recommending it. Yes. So it'll be a recommendation. From a planning perspective, everything looks good. Heath, today. Oh, it was very early, 7:30. Anything to add?
This committee.
Did he discuss?
You know, it's a certain thing. It has before.
No.
I think we probably do the Board of Appeals first.
We're gonna do the Board of Adjustment. Yes. That's. We're looking to do the adjustment appeals first. And I can, if you don't mind, turn it immediately to me, just to give a little brief overview of the committee, what it does, the adjustment. It's so rarely meets. Yeah.
It's looks like it's 11 o'clock, so I'm gonna call our first meeting to order. First meeting is gonna be the Board of Adjustment Appeals. I call that to order, and I will call on Mr. Baird to explain why we're here and what we're doing.
Sure. First off, just a general overview of what the Board of Adjustment Appeals is. It is a rarely used body. It is obviously, we have business before it today. Our regulations state that the same individuals that are on the Board of Zoning Appeals are on this appeals as well. This is an appeal for two things. Number one, orders that are submitted by staff, by the city for safety of building conditions, and then also interpretations of the building code when someone appeals those decisions. Again, we have one today. The history on this and the demolition order is in your packet for 307 North Spring Street. Since the time that we submitted this order, and also in your packet is the on-site inspection that was done by our inspector, who happens to be here as well, and can discuss more in detail. But since that time, we've had discussions with the property owner's engineer, and we're willing from a staff perspective to table this motion until next month, provided that the property owner is comfortable with willing to work with us on to create what is referred to as an agreement to abate the nuisance. That's the legal term. I've been in contact with our city attorney about this just on Friday. Basically, what it would be is an agreement that would spell out certain parameters as far as time frame would go for certain repairs and certain stabilization of the building, instead of it being somewhat of an open-ended building permit, which is typically our process. We have on the screen the actual back of the building itself. You can see why, from a perspective of staff, why we view this as a pretty dangerous structure. You've got cinder blocks that are unsupported by 4x4s, which are holding up the back of the building. So there's a definite serious safety concern here. I don't think that can be argued. The question is, what do we do with that moving forward? Since this order was sent, we have again been in contact with their engineer and feel that there is a path forward here other than demolition, which we previously did not foresee. So with that being the case, and I would like to turn it over to the property owner at this time for any remarks that they have, and provided that they're comfortable with working with us to create an agreement such as that, we are comfortable with tabling that.
One of the property owners, just give us your name.
Jose Hernandez. Good
Mr.
morning.
Hernandez.
Yes. Good morning. As you guys know, it does look bad. There is a support wall right there with the foundation on the property. We haven't had that much time to work on the property, although we did pull the permits last year. I believe June. We didn't get funded till December 17th, and construction on that building started on December 23rd, I believe. As far as for the new foundation, I mean, we've worked as fast as possible, but there are steps that my contractor also took, as far as like demoing the inside before we make it fully structurally sound. We've done everything the city has asked us to do, as far as the structural engineer reports. I mean, we've been in full compliance with the city. I've had a good relationship with our previous building inspector, Stan Phillips. I mean, anything he asked that was done. We did stop construction due to my nephew. We took off to California for about 2 weeks. That was unexpected, wasn't planned. As I mean, life, it's part of life, right? But we are ready and willing. We do have the financing to repair the building. So I mean, I just ask that the city allows us to repair the building.
So that's from our perspective, that's what we want to see as well. I would say that, again, goes back to kind of the statement I said before, which is that because of the serious safety concerns that we have, we would want to have some kind of assurances that we're stepping forward in a systematic approach. Our typical building permit is just kind of open-ended. It basically just gives someone the right to do that construction. I think we need a little bit more here. The other issue that is concerned is that asbestos has been found on the site. So there are Tennessee state laws about how you remediate that. And so that would be part of the process. I think that I haven't spoken with Mr. Hernandez directly on this, haven't had the opportunity yet, but our conversation with their engineer on Friday made us feel, when I say us, myself, Sean, who I'll introduce in a moment, and our inspector who's in the back, makes us feel that we do have a path forward here. And so if there is a way to save the building, and with the property owner's wishes to continue construction, that, you know, if they're willing to work with us to enter into that agreement, then we, again, we'll table it, and we can work together to make this work.
So what you're saying is from the city's perspective, you're willing to hold off a month to see if an agreement can be worked out on how this is gonna.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And there would be timetables and making sure that, hey, you know, in 2 weeks you've got this done, another week you've got this done. But it would be a legally binding agreement. Should they be able to meet everything that's on that agreement, then, you know, the building's saved and we can all move forward, and we're happy about that. If they're not able to make the terms of agreement, then yes, we would have to come back to this board and ask for enforcement of the original order.
I have a question. That 1 month time frame, is that do you feel like that's a reasonable amount of time given labor shortages and materials and like does that make sense?
Yeah, and so we're not hard and fast on that 1 month time frame. I think the time frames would be negotiated between ourselves and the party. The main thing we don't want to see is, again, it being open-ended and we just give a permit and then it sits for a year and a half. Because if that happens, we could see the building collapse. And we don't want that. So I would say that from our perspective, we want to work with you, Mr. Hernandez, to make it a reasonable timeframe. This is not intended in any way, shape, or form to say, hey, there's a week, hey, you didn't do it in a week, then hey, we can move forward. That's not our intention in any way, shape, or form. The labor shortages are an issue, and provided that we feel that there's no immediate safety concern, then we'll be comfortable with working at an agreeable time frame. So yeah, so in short, we're not hard and fast on that 1 month.
David, would the city have any liability by allowing them to continue work? This is falling from the middle. The bricks was holding it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see that. You can, in fact, Sean, if you wouldn't mind, you could maybe go and do the next page. The next one kind of shows it a little bit on number 2. Click on number 2 there, if you don't mind. You can kind of see it there. It's really kind of starting to bow a little bit, which is yet another concern. I think the city, in my experience, the city reduces its liability by entering into this type of agreement because it sets specific parameters and it acknowledges that the property owner understands that there are some serious concerns based on it. Again, our city attorney, Tim Pirtle, was not able to make it today, but I have spoken with him and he agrees with this course of action.
On this picture that you got there now, all that fell off. It wasn't torn off.
No,
It just fell off.
no, sir. It didn't fall off. My contractor is here and he'd be happy to explain to you guys that nothing fell off. It was all removed to repair whatever was rotten. So the nothing has fell off. I mean, we've had gusty winds this past weekend. The building's still up. Everything has been removed. Nothing has fell off the building.
But you have engineers and people, because there's nothing in there that will meet code on this, from the floor joists to the spans to.
Well, I mean, that's why I am working with my structure engineer. So, and in his reports that I provide to you guys, it says the spans on the floor joists and everything, and what type of material to be used.
So one thing I'd at this time would like to bring up our building inspector. And I always butcher your last name, so I apologize in advance. But Mr. Chuck Riffergetti, did I say that correct? All right, great. So he is with Municipal Inspection Partners, and he's been working with us on this project. One of the problems from the original submittal of the engineer's report was it was rather vague, and it didn't really specify nor give a level of plan detail as far as what were the exact plans moving forward to repair this building. That was a huge concern for him. On our meeting with Mr. Rhodes, who is his engineer, he agreed, the engineer agreed that it was not specific enough, and he understood our concerns for that. One of the reasons for this delay is, or this table request to table the motion, is so that Mr. Rhodes does have the appropriate time to go back and create the plans at the level of specificity that he can. I think this is genuinely a very difficult and tough time for Mr. Rhodes, their engineer. He just lost a son. And so I think that I'll just say it's a difficult time for him. So he understood our concerns. And I think that moving forward, I think the work, I hope that will not be an issue from our perspective. So. Chuck, do you have anything else you'd like to add about that?
From a professional perspective, I think time is of the essence here.
Yeah.
Usually you can determine that. Secondarily, our actions or any actions by the building owner subsequently through a contractor, this on-site safety without some measurable and specific documentation from a design perspective for anybody to enter that building and structurally start to rehabilitate it by removing temporary structures, you've got the risk of collapse, which you can clearly see here. So
Yeah.
there has to be some specific details and instructions from the engineer to our property owner as to how to proceed, so we don't have any on-site injuries, deaths, and the structure needs to be brought back to its proper level positions from the floor assemblies on up to the roof. So it'll be a difficult process from start to finish. That can't be ignored or sidestepped.
Yeah.
To make this project any less than it really is, visually it's able to prove that out. So it'll be a difficult process for Mr. Hernandez to enter into without adequate and professionally trained contractors to undertake this type of project.
Well, my structural engineer is experience in what he does. Obviously, he's done this for many years. He's built buildings, houses. He mainly works with tornado damaged properties. So I don't see any problem as far as him guiding me to repair the building.
Have you evaluated the cost of all this repair to the value when it's finished?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Have you evaluated the cost that you're going to have to spend to the value of the building when it's
Yes.
finished?
Yes, and I spoke with that with my contractor.
And you feel like it's worth going through that expense?
Yes.
If you're looking at several $100,000, I would think too.
Well, my engineer said it'd be less than 120,000. I mean, he.
That's impossible.
So one thing I will say, and I would recommend to Mr. Hernandez, is Mr. Rose conveyed to us that he does kind of step people through step-by-step instructions. I think I would recommend that the property owner really push to get a full estimate from him as far as the full cost. That is a concern from our perspective, that we're not sure that that's been conveyed to Mr. Hernandez. And I think that you guys as the property owner deserve that. And I think Mr. Rhodes is I have no doubt that he is an extremely qualified engineer. But again, this is a very difficult time that he's going through. He just lost his son. And I'd say that if I just lost my son, I probably would not be at my A game when I was doing my work. So I just would leave it at that. So I think that's something you should ask him. So
I personally think it can be brought back as a builder. I'm just not sure it would be worth the cost of what it's going to cost to bring it, because there's nothing in it code. The floor joist, when you start, there's nothing in there. And when you bring it back to code, it's going to be terribly, terribly expensive.
And the other
it's
thing,
going to be extremely hazardous to work in there.
The other thing I mentioned is that because, when you guys started out, the original permit was for a residential structure. We've rezoned the property and are looking at doing a mixed use. What that does is it implicates the commercial building codes, which are more stringent, which means you have to build it to a higher standard. I don't know if that's something that you've looked at.
I spoke to Stan Phillips about that.
Okay.
When we started the process, and he explained to me what I need as far as firewalls, fire doors, and stuff like that. So I do, and I am aware of everything.
So this has no electrical, no water?
No.
So you're going to have to redo it all?
Yes.
Windows, no insulation?
Yes, sir.
With no floor system, really, you've got to start with a floor system.
Well, it does have the floors. That's just the back of the building.
That will not meet, those little 2x won't meet the code. You're going to have to start, I would think, from scratch with all that. That'd be my concern, is keeping it from following. But I do have a lot of respect for the brick. The brick is extremely well. It's remarkable.
Yes.
And,
So I mean, as far as that, that'd be something that I'd have to consult with my engineer. I mean, because who know best than him as far as the
Well,
span
he
and
needs to be with the codes.
Of course.
because, You know, you can't.
So I'm sorry.
May I speak? I'm sorry.
Yes, sure.
Sorry, my name is Melody Kremen. I'm with Heritage Alliance. This home that we're speaking of is one of the oldest remaining homes in McMinnville. It's over 122 years old. If he can get a hold of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, they can direct him to the grants that would help him to cover the cost to save this building. I understand that it's an eyesore and I understand that it is a danger at this time, but I feel like it is worth saving because it is one of our oldest homes. And I think with enough time and money, that it can be saved. But he's gonna, as you said, he's gonna have to have the right person that can bring it back to life and get it back to where it needs to be. But there's also the concern of safety. So it may be that there needs to be a chain link fence or something put up so the kids, our homeless community, anybody can just wander in there and get injured or.
And we have done that. We've required that of the property owner. Actually, Public Works put up some barricades on the street. They've put up the temporary fencing. So it's not something that can be accessed at this time. So we've already made temporary arrangements in that arena.
From a historical standpoint, we feel that if he can say that it is worth saving.
Yeah.
We are losing way too many of our historic buildings here in town. And I mean, if you think he can bring that back to life, then I think that he should be able to do it. And as I said, I mean, there's grants out there. With it being that old, there's grants out there that can provide him with the money he needs to be able to finish this project.
Well, I'd love to have you guys connect if you've never met each other. I mean, we, from the city's perspective, certainly do want to save old buildings. Our concern isn't so much the eyesore, it's the safety.
Right.
And the back of the building, I mean, the photos, I think, kind of speak for it all.
Yes, and I've spoken with the neighbors in around, and I mean, it's a concern for them also. I mean, there's kids that are running in and out of there. That's why I said, I mean, if we can just find a way to like block it off until he can get it structurally sound, where it's not a risk to somebody's health and safety.
So it's, I feel that it's secure today as far as people getting into the property. I do feel that. The structural integrity is more, the bigger concern. And no, I don't think anyone really has a crystal ball as to, what the time frame is, but I will say that Mr. Rifragetti and their city and their engineer both agree that time is of the essence in this property. I don't think there's anyone that would disagree with that. Mr. Kirby, Ms. Kirby.
If it were to fall, is it gonna fall outside barricade or where would it go?
Mr. Rifragetti behind you, I'd probably, since you were the on-site inspector.
It would all hinge off what the starting event would be, with the straight line winds, with the thunderstorm, would it be a failure of a component that's temporarily in place to support the structure? It all depends on where it starts to fail as to what direction it will carry through.
Also, my contractor wanted to speak.
Yeah.
Do you have other pictures, the whole building inside in the front?
Yes, we do. And there are, as pointed in the report, there are areas of the building that are in good health. We will more than stipulate to that. It's just that there's one area that could cause collapse, and that's where we're at. So, yeah.
I mean, and also when you guys stop out, like by now, we should be able to have more secure, but since we're not allowed to work there, that's why the building is still like that. A lot of the poles there, we just moved out to do the foundation, and again, I mean, the picture that I'm showing all the support that we have for that building. So.
Okay.
So the pictures don't do justice. So there is a new foundation on the whole building that was done, and we exceeded what was asked. from our engineer and our previous building inspector. So I mean, we've done a lot of work, which is we got stopped due to rezoning. As far as there would have been a wall back there already.
That wall is not gonna help you. It's the interior's falling from the inside. It's, if you don't do something, it's gonna collapse. It's dropped a tremendous amount. I'd love to see you save it, just out of respect for the brick, because, I mean, they've withstood. They must have been laid with cement or something, because.
I mean, I do agree with David as far as like it being time sensitive. I mean, I'm ready and willing as far as my contractor, we are ready to start construction on it to make it structurally sound. As far as the timeline, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, but so long as it's not like, how can I say it? It's
we're not going to set you up to fail.
Okay.
And I think that's what you may be trying to say. And was also Ms. Stefanik saying.
To complete this, I think it's gonna take several months to.
Right, which just goes back to my initial concern, is 30 days going to be enough time to get to step one? And is that where we're trying to get to within this 30 days? Is this 30 days just to say, okay, here are the steps that you need to take. Here's the cost estimate for that. Are you willing to enter into this agreement to start work and progress along this schedule for the next, because obviously it's not all going to get done in 30 days.
No.
But is that the intent to say, yes, I agree to do this, and I agree to this reasonable timeline for the ultimate restoration of the property?
That is the intent, is the first 30 days is to get all this down and agreed upon. I will say the first step really has to be to abate the asbestos that's on the site. And so I would say that's step number one, and getting that taken care of. There again are some state laws with that. We are flexible we're going to work. Again, the best way I can say it is our intention here is not to set them up to fail. It's to set them up to succeed. And make sure that I hear from their perspective, hey, things happen, but I think now we're at a point where time is really of the essence, and there just can't be, any deviations from that. But having said that, we want to be reasonable to make sure that happens. The building is now secure. I think the devil's in the details as far as the specifics of the agreement. It's going to take some time to work through that. But that's our intent to do that.
So the proposal is the 30-day, what did you call it, abate?
Yeah. So what I would say is the reason I said 30 days to begin with is because that would be when this committee could then meet again. My recommendation is that we do meet again within the 30 days to review the status of where we are. However, that 30 days, that may not be actually in the agreed upon contract, if that makes sense.
So if you're making significant progress after 30 days, it could be extended on.
Yeah, that would be the point, is that
Reissue that permit.
Yeah, is that we meet again in 30 days or meet again at the end of the month, and we say, hey, here's what's happened. We report back to you. They're still making significant progress. We don't see any further deterioration of the building. And that's, I think that whether, the question was asked, did the materials fall off? Were they scraped off? Really doesn't matter from our perspective. What does matter is that you can see some of the problems that are there. And I would say that when I look at the photos from when the previous inspector was here versus what we see today, just the photos, it's a pretty significant difference. So how this came about doesn't really matter. It's that we know that there's some serious structural problems. But I think making sure the committee does meet in a month from now, and then we report back and say, okay, this is, we can copy you guys on the agreement. We can say, here's the steps we've made. And our hope again is that we're at a point where it still is salvageable. But I wouldn't want to recommend the open-ended permit process that we typically have at this point.
That would give you some time to get some estimates together to make sure you want to pursue this, because
I mean, to
it's
be
gonna be
completely
a
honest with you,
tremendous
as far
cost.
as me pursuing it, I'm all in. I have the money for it. So if it costs me $1 or $1 million, then so be it. I mean,
That's great.
the money's there. We grew up in this house. My mom's owned it since '96, so it's got sentimental value. It's not just money to me. It's sentimental value. That's more of what it is. Me, my sisters, my siblings, my cousins, we all grew up in this building, running around inside, outside, whatever the case may be. But as far as the amount that's going to cost me, that's to me.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah. And
And
so
you feel
that's
like-
been,
You feel like
Yeah.
that this is a reasonable option for you
Of
to
course.
exercise
I
this
mean,
30 days
yes.
with the options and the
Well, and-
resources that you have? You feel like that 30 days gives you enough time to work with the city and get a plan together
Yes.
to move forward?
So I mean, like I said, we're ready to. I mean, given the opportunity, we'll start right now. I mean, but as far as asbestos, my contractor's working on it. We're trying to get it out of there as soon as possible. So it is dangerous. But as far as building and all that, we're ready.
I
to
think
start.
that asbestos was just those shingles that was on the back.
Yes.
And they said, way get a container and put that in. I
Okay.
don't think that's gonna be that complicated. to
yeah,
do.
we do need to get them in touch. There's someone at the state that you'll have to get in touch with through media.
I'm in contact with him.
Okay.
He already sent me several contractors. As far as my contractors are also already in contact with them. Because we didn't want to go into the property and then city official contradict us, and you know what I mean. So but we are ready to clean up the asbestos and start construction. As soon as
Yeah,
possible.
and if that's a concern from your perspective, then this agreement will help with that because we're putting in writing what we're willing to do from the city's perspective. And you're also doing the same. So I think that's a good path forward.
I would feel like as a board, we would love to see it restored because myself, just out of respect for the brick that it's withstood. I mean, they're not cracked. You see new houses that are.
Yeah,
cracked,
and
the brick is remarkable.
not to point the finger, in it, but I have seen other properties that are as old, and you see the brick crack, you see stuff like that, which is not my business. That's but it's just something that even my structural engineer told me the same thing. The building looks in good shape aside from the back. So I mean, like I said, we're ready and I'm willing to start work as soon as possible. I am grateful that the city is willing to work with us, and I'm grateful that we can find funding. If by somebody else, you give an opportunity, save me the money from my pocket. But if that's not possible, then it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to see it restored too, obviously. And I will state that I don't disagree with the statement that the rest of the building is in decent condition. We did not proceed on this based on it looking like an eyesore. We proceeded on this based on serious safety concerns about one area of the building, which could cause it to collapse.
And I'm still a little concerned about workers. They're gonna be extremely cautious even working on this building.
Yeah.
Did the back part have brick on it?
I'm sorry?
Did the back originally? have
No,
brick?
the back never had brick. I wish it did. But it had a siding. It had a blue siding on it, and so that was removed in order to repair all the, because the back of the building had a lot of water damage.
No, before that, it had a product like brick siding. It was, they rolled it on and it was
Kinda like tile.
imitation brick. And then they put the shingles. I'm familiar with that house all my life. I've had a lot of respect for it over the years.
David, let me make sure I understand. So the city's tabling its motion about enforcing the demolition order at this point.
That's
So there's
correct.
nothing for us to take action on today.
Yes, it's more of an informational, and also I felt that because we are tabling it and this committee will meet the next month, that
No, I understand.
I want for you guys to be aware of the issues that are involved. So that, if.
Right. I just want to make sure we don't have, there's no action for us to take at this point. We just got a lot of good information. Sounds like Mr. Hernandez is ready to move forward with all this. And so hopefully by next month, when you report to us, there'll be a report that things are moving forward.
Yeah, so Mr. Hernandez, actually, we do have a number of different items on our agendas, but would you be available to speak with me today or tomorrow?
Of course.
Okay, so I'll reach back out to you, and like I said, either today or tomorrow, and we'll move forward in that capacity. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you
Thank you.
for your time.
Appreciate it.
Good luck
Thank
with your project.
Okay. Anything else for this particular board to
No,
address today?
that's it.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
I would say,
Do you want to officially table it?
yeah, it probably would be good to officially table it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion to table the demolition order to be addressed at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, so that's taken care of. We got that on the record. And then we had a motion and second to adjourn. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. But no one's allowed to leave. Well, I mean, you all out there can leave if you want. This board will also meet now as the
Chuck
Board of
can leave.
Zoning Appeals. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your information. I'll call to order the meeting of the McMinnville Board of Zoning Appeals. First item on our agenda is to approve our minutes from our April 26th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve as written and approving it.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
So one thing I'd like just to add real quick, and we didn't get a chance to address it before, is sorry for kind of coming in, but we already made reference to this individual, so I want to go ahead and introduce him. But this is Sean Garrett. He is our new community planner, and we're very happy to have him. Sean comes to us from years of experience working in planning and building inspections in the state of Colorado. So big, what was it, 21-hour drive move? So Sean did a lot to help us prepare for our previous meeting in historic zoning. And I think it's going to be a real asset to our department. So I'm happy to welcome him here. So
Good to have you.
Glad to have you
Appreciate
aboard.
it. All right, next item on the agenda is a variance for property located at 102 Madison Street to allow for a deck setback approval. So David, you have a report on that?
yeah, sure. So in your packet, you can see where some of you can see a few maps that we've provided. I think the best map to look at, if you fold out, is one that says official website map at the top. It's on Madison Street. It's this one. It's kind of the 11 by 17, if you will. So the issue here is that when we go out and measure, as we do, to check the lengths of properties, we found that the existing back of the building to the property line is about 22 feet. The requirement is that rear setbacks be 25 feet. So the applicant in this case came in and asked that they install a deck on the side of their property. As you can see from this map, there's a fence that existing that runs through. What they're asking to do is to add that deck to be at the same as the back property line, the back setback. So to do that, technically that goes a couple of feet, 3 feet into what is the rear setback. We think that that regulation is just a non-conforming regulation. So the building was built prior to the actual requirement that it be 25 feet. So we reviewed the variance criteria. We believe it meets the variance criteria. And so we'd be asking for this, for your approval for this. Actually, it's 2 feet of a variance to allow them to create a side deck, which would be even with their back property.
Is there anybody here from the property owner? Is there anything you want to add?
I think it's like great. I have a picture.
Okay.
Just if you got to see it.
Yeah, sure.
Just to kind of visualize. Or just just to the end of the house.
Yeah.
I thought to bring it in. It's a tiny deck anyway. Okay. There.
Okay.
No, just to end there.
Oh, Ian, right there.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to be flush with weather.
It'll be flush with
Yes.
the. in and
Yes,
out.
but visually, you know, just I would have a little bit, it's a little deck anyway.
Good, larger.
That dog needs more rain.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, and so I mean, we looked at it, it's really, if our property owner, that's where I'd want the deck to be, and with the existing fence and it being 2 feet, not non-conforming situation. And there's in reviewing the variance criteria, I don't see anything that would preclude it. So we're recommending that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we recommend, or we approve the request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. I just want to make sure, in terms of a public hearing, is there anyone else here to speak on this matter? Does not appear to be. So we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. So will she need to get with your office, David? Is there anything?
Yeah, so we'll, basically, you'll just be asking for a deck permit and, we'll enter it into our system saying that the variance was granted. The final approval is here, so then we can issue you the deck permit moving forward. I will ask her to give you a call either today or tomorrow, and then she can explain the process moving forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, a variance for property located at 106 Winding Way to allow for self-storage facilities to be installed as an accessory building.
Yes.
David, you want to give us a report on that?
Absolutely. So this is a very strange property. Again, that 11 by 17 map is probably the best map for you to look at. When I say strange, the way it is subdivided, literally the primary building on the lot is at one corner. So I don't know if it was the applicant and owners here. I don't know if at one time it was more than one lot or only one lot. But yeah, it is very strange in that it's literally built at a zero setback, literally at a corner. The setback today for the C2 zoning district, which it is in, is 40 feet. So if you were to apply that to this property, it would be literally the front setback would be further back than the back of the building. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not very reasonable to require someone to have a setback. Now, it's also, we wouldn't want to see another large primary structure on that building. So I think what the applicant is requesting makes absolute sense for this property. The one thing I'll mention is if you see on this map, you can kind of see where the vegetation is. You can see where there's greenery. That right there is basically starts a straight uphill. So what the owner is requesting here is to put a number of accessory structures which would serve as self-storage there. It would then provide ample room for parking so that someone could park next and then go in and get to their self-storage unit. We think that really that's from staff's perspective, that just makes sense on this property. But again, it's not, this is certainly not, the setback of 40 feet was clearly not designed for this property. So with that, the applicant's here if he wants to add anything else.
Mr. Nunley, anything to add?
Well, it's just a parking lot. And what I'm hoping to do, I bought the apartments from Larry Self. I've got apartments across the street. I've completely redone them, re-roofed them, made them all brand new. It would help me if I could have them over there across the street. That way, if somebody moved in, they needed a little extra storage, they would have them right there at where they live. Sure.
And right now, there is more than enough parking space for the small primary building that's on the lot. So having a structure that is set back a little bit, but yet, and allows for parking right there, just makes sense with that uniquely shaped property, which is what variances are for, is to deal with the oddballs, so to speak. And this is definitely one of those. So.
Is there anyone else here who wants to speak on this matter? If not, is there any questions from the board? We have a motion.
A motion to approve the variance is requested.
Motion, do we have a second? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Let's see. Any staff updates? Gave us one already.
No, that's the big one here, and happy to have him because it's getting pretty busy in our office. So
Need to have some extra help.
I would say there were a couple other applications that I thought might make it on the agenda. So I would be surprised if we don't have a meeting of BZA again next month. So.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
You're free to go.
How many openings you got left?
In the department?
Yeah.
No, 0.
And you're-
Yeah, we're full. So we
Yeah, we got.
I don't know if this is what you're thinking, but actually that is, and in fact, I will make a staff update on that from the planning commission, but Lyndon Basil has moved from our department to Public Works, but his job responsibilities have not moved. Yeah, he is doing stormwater and GIS through the Public Works Department. So we have relished those responsibilities to the other department. Yes, that's right. Although we did keep the floodplain stuff, and Sean will be doing that. So I'd say we took on a little. We don't get that much on the floodplain that we have to deal with. But that is a very good point.
Okay, we ready to move on to the McMinnville Regional Planning Commission?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'll call that meeting to order. First item is approval of minutes from the April 26th meeting. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a final plat on Beersheba Crossroads. Maybe you want to fill us in on that?
That's correct. And so the Mr. Moore, who's created the plat, is with us here today and can fill in anything else. During the time period of not having a planner, we, of course, we're working with Upper Cumberland Development District. They've reviewed this plat. We've been in consultation with them. Their recommendation is that it does meet all of the requirements, and that it should be approved. And this is a final plat.
Mr. Moore, is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the plat.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the plat.
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next item is another final plat on the James and Dana Milstead property, Bobby Branch Road.
And so at this time, I'm gonna actually pass these plats out. I think it'd be helpful as we go through this, but I know that they're pretty large, so I may just give a couple. Just so that you're understanding of the issues that we have on those. So this is this was all on one lot, or all on one property, even though there's a road that went through it. So this is the request is to subdivide into 3 different locations. The remaining, from a planning perspective, it meets all of our requirements as is shown in the Upper Cumberland Development District report. The remaining issue, and I've spoken as well as Mr. Moore has spoken with our water and sewer department. We're not yet sure about whether the state will require, because of its proximity, to have a pump station installed, so that it would have sewer. Right now, there is not sewer at this location, and the applicant is asking for the 2 barns that you see on the left to be shared by one septic system. So from a planning perspective, from our department's perspective, it meets all of our requirements to subdivide. But there is some further research that the water and sewer department has to do before they are comfortable signing off on this plat. So what we're doing is this is a plat that came in close to our deadline. So what we've done and put into your packet is that we requesting approval of the final plat pending the review from the water and sewer department.
Mr. Moore, again, is there anything you want to add?
It's served by a septic tank now then.
It is. Both lots are served at, well, I'll let Mr. Moore speak to that because he's more.
Current knowledge, the packing barns are both serviced by one septic system. Now, we don't know the exact location of that. If you're out there on site, there's been a lot of fill up to one of the packing barns. It could be buried deep. I don't know that there'd be any way of knowing exactly where that's at, but we just been told that they're both being fed into that one. So as you'll see, we've just sort of a blanket easement for those to continue use of those. And of course, like David said, in my conversation with he seemed to think that they could tie into sewer. They would have to pump at the least. But for current situation, we just want to utilize the septic system as they were.
Should they have, each lot have their own, I mean,
So I did ask that to Mr. Collins, and his response was more that there wasn't, as I understood it, a true requirement for that, but that they looked more at volume. Can it handle it? You know, can the septic handle what the volume would be? But he really felt like he needed to research this particular issue more before he was comfortable with, recommending it, which is why we're.
That will be a health department issue, right? If it stays on the septic tank.
Yes, it would.
That would be something that we could take any action on either way.
Well, the health department does have requirements, and as I understand, that's been run through the health department as far as, they're not in violation of any kind of health department requirement. It's just we don't usually, when a property is subdivided, there's a desire to have its own septic system. In this case, what they're asking for is separate meters. Water and sewer wants to make sure that the separate meters could be done appropriately on this property, and they're not, without going out there, they don't really know how to respond. They want time to do that. So those are some of the reasons behind that.
So you're recommending we approve it pending the review of the water and sewer?
That's correct.
So that if that came back negative, then there'd still be issues that would have to be.
That's correct. Yes.
Well, I guess maybe I just need to clarify
Mhm.
some there things confusion, but so when the water and sewer come back and they say go ahead, they're saying that one septic will work. Is that what their issue is? Is that what the issue for them, or is that
Heath
separate?
wouldn't have anything to do with the septic tank. He's just
Okay.
water and sewer. So he's just
So that's
evaluating
totally
whether.
different issues.
Yes.
Okay.
We, first and foremost, we want to be clear to anyone that buys these properties that they're on one septic. That's the reason that's on the plat. Now, the water and sewer is a totally different issue as far as Heath been able to say, hey, we could service both of these. Say the septic tank fails in the future, what's going to happen then? Well, then we want to be sure that the city can service those two properties as they are on sewer. So separate issues.
Yeah.
So that's what we're waiting to see if the sewer department can service those two lots.
Yes, that is, and Heath was concerned. Thought that there might actually be some state law on it that would require it to be serviced with sewer in this case.
Even if pump is necessary.
Well, the pump would be necessary. He did say that it would absolutely be a pump. The installation of a pump would be necessary to reach these properties. So
I'm a little
they're
confused on the field line. You have to be so far from the property line and everything to have a field line. How are you gonna?
I mean, I know what you're saying. In a perfect
I don't see how
world,
this works.
and when it's permitted, you're exactly right. You have to be 10 feet off of a property line. But, it also might not have been permitted that they were sharing one. This is really old.
This is not servicing any houses. That may be part of it.
They were just offices. They're just packing barns. They're not getting a whole lot of use for what they were being used for at the time.
Right.
If someone buys one of these lots and decides they want to put a house on it, are they going to have to then talk to the health department about the septic system?
I mean, yeah, they would definitely have to get them evaluated as far as, do they have enough capacity? But here again, the state doesn't evaluate in a normal situation. Like we're out in the county doing a division. They don't normally evaluate the existing system. Matter of fact, they put a disclaimer on there that they don't evaluate them.
Right.
You can get inspection letters and stuff like that. But
I guess what I'm getting at is that's just going to be an issue they have to deal with down the road if someone wanted to buy one.
This be a buyer beware situation.
Well, and that's what we're trying to disclaim. There's probably not enough undisturbed area there that they could put a septic system in, but it's in the city. So if somebody buys a lot in the city, they probably want to be serviced by sewer anyway. But we would like to proceed even if the sewer wouldn't work based on the existing condition, knowing that it is a packing barn and it's somebody's gonna do residential with it or something else, then, maybe they have the means to resolve that issue, but under the circumstances we've got, being that it is just a block building.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Well, it seems like long as they could get sewer and pay at the pump, it wouldn't be a big issue then.
He didn't seem to be, and I hadn't heard him with a concern that, to see if they could. He just told me, yeah, we can get sewer there, but it'd have to be pumped. That's his comment.
That was what I took from my conversation as well, is that they could get it there, but he did make mention to me that he was concerned that there might be some state law that they might have to use it to service, basically.
I've seen most of that, when sewer's available, they got a septic tank situation like this. State would just go ahead and say, well, sewer's available, get on the sewer.
Yeah.
That gets it out of their hands. And I think that's a big problem.
I'm sure those buildings were there, those are old buildings. Underwood Road used to not be there. It's possible that those were built, installed even before Underwood Road was there. It might not even been in the city at the time.
Most likely, well, I'm almost
No,
positive it was not in the city at the time. Yeah.
Because there's still exclusions on the deed from when the strip was.
I think we could go ahead and approve this subject to.
Yeah. Provided you're comfortable with that.
So these quirks with this, will they'll be noted and known, and that's what concerns me.
Yeah.
Where will the flag fly? And will it be noticeable when they buy that? Because we seem to get a lot of that now. We didn't know, they permitted it anyway, it's different.
Yeah.
Seems like
And
there's a lot of things that could come unraveled.
yeah, and I think that if you would like to delay action on this, that's another route until Water and Sewer gets the opportunity to review it instead of approving it pending their review. From our perspective as planners, I'll say for our department's needs, it doesn't meet the requirements, but Water and Sewer does have to sign off on these for obvious reasons. So if you would like, I did not get a timeline from Heath prior to this meeting on how quickly you'd be able to review it. I have sent it to him. But that is the other option you could take, is to defer this one until the next meeting, until Water and Sewer could give you a full report on the situation.
I will just say that he's been really good to work with, and he said if we need to go out there today and look at it, we could. Just on a side note, there's an auction scheduled for this property on Saturday. So we would like to be able to move forward as quickly as possible. And I think Heath would be willing to work with us to get us the answer we need before then.
I think our approval wouldn't really matter on that because we're not approving what they're going to say. So it'd be subject to that. I feel like we could go ahead and approve it as long as the people are aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I completely agree with that. However, if the commission does not feel comfortable doing that, then a delay is another reasonable alternative as well. So it really depends on your comfort level.
Delay it, I think. Then this is.
Oh.
Anyway, hey, just real quick, what Michael said is true. We've got an auction scheduled for this Saturday. I'll take care of all the details as far as disclosures and how we do this all the time. We sell buildings that's got septic tanks that share. And I'll just tell people it's up to the city, sewer and water department. You can use this existing septic tank. We're going to sell them in tracks. We're going to offer them to be regrouped as well. So whoever buys both of them, if they're sell separate, they'll have to share the septic tank. If the city come back and says you got to put your own sewer tap in, water tap in, that's fine. I'll make that disclosure. But we do it all the time. So shouldn't be an issue.
And I mean, the plat itself puts that in the general notes that there's a mutual easement for the benefit of lots 2 and 3 for the existing septics. So that discloses that these two lots share a septic system.
Yeah. And basically what I'll say in my opening remarks is, yeah, that's true. And I'll just say that you have an existing septic tank serving 2 parcels. And if the city come back and says later that you have to have your own septic or your own sewer and water, then that's
Then
between you and the
so be
city.
it. Yeah.
I mean, that's, that's fine. We do it all the time. And it's the old Ideal Nursery property, Jerry. You probably know where it is. Yeah. So, and it used to not be in the city years ago, like you said, it is in the
And
city
it
now.
could get tied together, not be a factory.
Right. I mean, some good buildings, good property. It's just, there's a lot of property out there that's still tied, two buildings tied to existing septic.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I will say that's much more frequent in the county, not in the city. But again, this is one that got annexed into the city.
Yeah.
So you're dealing
That
with
is
what
true.
you're doing.
So nobody sees any potential devastating problem coming from moving forward that comes out that we got, why didn't we see that? Why didn't we think of that?
I'm the same thing. I tell you, Rachel, if something comes up, I won't sign the plan. I'm the last one.
Yeah.
I'm the last
There
one
you
to
go.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
that's a very valid statement. And you're on camera.
Yeah. Yeah. So. All right. Thank you.
Don.
Thank you.
Michael. Do we have a motion at this point?
I like motion. We approve. Presented.
With the condition
With
of.
the condition of the water and sewer. Thank you.
Motion and second. Anybody else have any other points? Aye. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us down to a couple of zoning code text amendments. Yeah, sure. The first one's on movers and moving rentals in C2.
So this is one that we've had some discussion on first at one meeting, and then we kind of made some edits. And then secondarily, we attempted to have a meeting, but we unfortunately didn't have quorum. So within your packet, there are actually two different issues, but they're in the exact same place that they need to be edited. So I kind of combined them in your packet. First, I'll talk about the movers and the moving equipment rentals. Again, this came to light from a property owner that is here today. Got a special exception requirement approval to do automobile repair. They also came back to us after that and said, hey, we'd really like the option to do U-Haul rental on this. Their property is quite large. One of the biggest concerns that we discussed this is that there are a lot of C2 properties that are not very large in the city, and are properties that you would not want that type of use. You would not want, the thing that comes to my mind is North Chantry Street. I do not see that area as somewhere you'd want to have a large U-Haul rental. But in this particular property, it functions and feels a lot like our C3 properties anyway. So what we did is we reviewed other cities and looked at what lot sizes would be. You can see on number 12, it says for movers and moving equipment rentals, the minimum size of the lot required for the use should be 30,000 square feet. I think that is large enough to incorporate this type of use on the property. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the special exception, what I call a special exception transfer prohibition. These property owners are a great example as well for this issue, even though it's a separate issue. They bought the property being unaware that they had to come back to the city to be granted a special exception. We see this a lot with automobile uses in the city where the property was made to be an automobile use. It's bought as an automobile use. It'd be very expensive to change it to be anything but an automobile use, but yet instead of being able by right to do another automobile use, literally the exact same use that they bought it from, they then have to come before the board to obtain that approval. So that can really slow down their ability to get up and moving their business. And that is the case with the property owners that are here today. So again, they're two separate issues, but they are within the same area of text, which is why I've put those together here. So any questions on either issue?
I think the lot size is good. That's roughly 150 by 200. That's a good size.
Yeah.
As far as the car lots coming back to be reviewed, sometimes in the past, and Jim can tell you this, I think they're not, they've been things that some were used and didn't meet everything. So that review gave you a chance to bring them up, you know, where if you just passed them on, you wouldn't get that shot. And is it worthwhile changing? I don't know. We keep it real simple for them when they come, if they meet everything.
Right.
To approve it, so.
The only thing I taking that out, somebody's operating a garage there. and He sells it to this guy, he don't know anything about the city doing. How's the next guy gonna know about what they do? What he's supposed to do about parked cars, and how long they can be on the premises. That don't think about them coming back. We've given them the sheet when they come in, and they know what they can't say, well, I didn't know I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Or if there's an upgrade that needs to be made, you know, during the time, that gives you a chance to rectify that. It is a little inconvenient for them, but still, for a business, surely, you know, that'd be 2 weeks or something, so.
Well, the opposite view of that is that if you put clear requirements in for what the land use is required, then we can cite that as a zoning violation through code enforcement to say, hey, you're not meeting the requirements that are required of this land use. So that's the way you could handle it on the backside. Now, if you, feel, with some hesitance with that, what we could do is just recommend the movers and moving equipment rentals. I'd say that I feel that in the last few months, I feel that we've increased our code enforcement capabilities significantly. And I think that we can deal with that on the back end. But having said that, I think the most important thing today, without a doubt, is getting the movers and moving equipment rentals in. So I'm comfortable with delaying the other issue and only approving if that's, we can discuss this further and other options in the future. But I wouldn't want it to preclude the moving the U-Haul rentals text amendment that we've worked
Let
on.
me ask you this, when I go and get a tax license, I'm spending downstairs, wherever it is, do they send that to y'all to be approved? Locate, it's allowed in that zoning district.
So it is different than when I was here previously. The applicant is, for a license, is told that they come to our office first, and then we approve that it is zoned appropriately, and then it gets sent to the other office. So we don't have the problem today that we previously had, where somebody would get a business license, open up in a zoning district that they were not approved for, and then we had to go and tell them that they were not approved. So on the older structure, I can understand why you would want to have that special exception approval at the front, because otherwise you'd be telling a lot of people, that, hey, you're in violation of this when they right when they open. But we don't have that issue as much because it is a much better way of handling the issue.
Used to, the city took the license over business, and we had to upstairs and cut them, close them down, and so that was I never could, finally got them to work with us on that.
Yeah, the
That's
system.
the way you still work today.
Yeah, the way we do it is much better than when I was because I was here previously when that was going on, where the license would be approved and then we'd have to go and tell them that they're not zoned. That was never a pleasant conversation, and I actually remember doing that once and did not want to do it again. So I am thankful that we do it another way. But yeah, I mean, I put these two together because they are both issues within the same text. But having said that, I think if there's no concern about the square footage, then the mover equipment. If there is concern on the other one, then we could table that until another time.
I like to that issue that what you said, just seems more positive to fix it on the front end instead of give somebody a citation and everybody's mad. And then there you are again with, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And people are mad then.
Yeah.
So I do like that to that issue. So.
Yeah, and we can discuss it further. I think one thing we've talked about in the planning commission is in these meetings. Of course, this would come up in a board of zoning appeal meeting, is the planning commission meeting twice monthly. Where I see the complaint coming in is when someone, for instance, walks into my office tomorrow and says, here's your historic zoning application, or here's your application for planning commission. And then I tell them, well, that's 4 weeks from now. That's where I hear, if it really depends on when they come into the office. So I think we can alleviate some of that with doing it bi-weekly. So.
Do you mind if I speak to the
Yeah.
other side of that?
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm sorry. So we're the ones that bought 410 Beersheba Highway.
Okay. Go ahead and come up.
Yeah. So actually, I went to the county first to get our license, and then she let me know, she goes, yeah, you have to go to the city and get your own business license from the city as well. I did not. And I did not because, long story short, my husband had just come from a business in the city that did not have a city business license. Okay. But neither here nor there, that business is no longer in business. Anyways, when I got here and they sent me upstairs to talk with Katie, that was still here at the time. And when she told me that I was going to have to go through, I can't remember what the process was, a variance or
Special exception.
Special exception. Thank you. Sorry. I literally burst into tears in her office because I had just, put $100,000 up to buy this property. That was a 3-bay garage. Never in my life did I think that they were going to tell me that I can't use it for a garage. What else am I going to use a 3-bay garage for? So I definitely broke down in the office just sobbing because of that. Now that's not an issue with you guys. That was an issue with the realtor that sold us the property and told us, oh yeah, it's a garage, make it a garage tomorrow, whatever. And of course, at this point, we had also already put some money into renovations because we didn't require any permits because all we did was cosmetic stuff inside. But so I had that tackled on top of what we had paid for the building. And we were just devastated at the thought that we were not going to be able to use it. Of course, we came here and you guys were amazing and we just moved through the process. But I will say paying the $100 application fee to get a special exception was also a really hard pill to swallow. As somebody who, we had just had a baby at the time. My husband had just lost his job for a second time during the pandemic. And it was a really hard pill to swallow, paying $100 for a application fee. And I know that may seem small time, but it's really not when you're trying to get a business started. I know you all know as hard as it is. So I understand you can't just blanket the special exception process, but I will just say from my side of things, it was a really hard pill to swallow. And I know that some of the properties may not meet the same way that ours did. I just don't know if there's some kind of middle ground to come to, but I could just say that it was a really, really tough time for us. And then of course we had to wait a month because you guys had just had your meeting, I think that day or the day before or something. So we had to wait a month. So I spent a month just tangled in knots, thinking that I had bankrupted my family moving this forward. So just something I'm not sure, wanted to speak from my side of it. Like I said, the staff in the office made everything a seamless process and really worked with us and everything, but hard pill to swallow. So
just remember now your competition has to do the same thing. So
right.
You're on this side and they're on the other side. So.
Right. And I know you mentioned one of the issues was making sure we were aware of some of the zoning stuff, which we were not. So, you know, I was very happy to get the list from the office and things that we had to agree that we could uphold in reference to basically not just becoming a junkyard in the middle of the city, which I completely understood. I will say, I know that there are businesses on the same street as us who do not adhere to these zoning rules and stuff. So I'm not sure if it's, I don't know why, you know, it couldn't just be something that's given to them when they fill out a city license, you know, that, you know, you're agreeing to this. So, but anyways, thank you guys.
Sure. No, I appreciate your perspective. And I mean, that's one thing I can see a little bit on both sides of this, but I guess for right now, my feeling is I don't want to change that just yet, but it may be something that we can look at changing down the road.
Yeah, I think that
because I
the
hate that it
immediate
causes
issue
problems
is
for, you know, for business owners.
Yeah.
To some degree, you know, like that, but yet it does give us the opportunity to make sure things are still in order, like Jerry said, and also to get those zoning requirements in front of the new business owners so that they know what they can and can't do. So
Yeah.
that helps going into the future too. So
yeah.
but I mean, I'm good with the 30,000 square feet on the movers and moving equipment, but maybe we'll just, I guess my feeling would be to wait on the other one. Because we are doing a continuing look at our zoning code. So that's something we look at as we go forward.
Yeah. So one other thing, there is one other, so that issue is on number 9 on, as you look on the second page of the agenda item, it says special approval should not be transferred to another owner. So we would be making this recommendation with the exception of that stricken language being maintained. The other thing I'll say is that if you look, it says there is on the first page, it said there's a stricken portion that says shall not be located adjacent to any residential district. The reason for that being stricken is it's duplicative. It's not, it states that in another area of the code. So it's just that it's said twice. So that's why
It's just not necessary.
It's not necessary. Yeah.
Will you read both of those sections? I mean, maybe it needs to be in both, so you don't miss it in the other.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep it that way if you want to.
I mean, I'm just wondering, I mean, code reading is not the easiest thing in the world.
I mean, typically my perspective on it is that, and now it could be, maybe it should be deleted in the other section that we could look at. You know, for now, I think you could take both of those out just to make sure, so we could show it on a more thorough, comprehensive view, if you'd like.
So what you're saying is you'd like us to approve number 12, the addition of number 12.
Yes, you'd be,
we could leave the others as is for now.
well, if you start from the 14,507.3B, it does include and movers and moving equipment rentals. That's important. And it also having it on the next page where it says movers and moving equipment rentals, that's important as well. And then number 12. So the two spots that are stricken, those would be maintained for now. Yes.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? Do we have a motion? So we'd be recommending this to the full board, right?
Yes, with this being a zoning ordinance text amendment, this does have to go before the full board. And of course, when we meet in front of the full board, the two places that are stricken would not be shown. Obviously, it would just be
right. Yeah, you would clean that up.
You would clean it up. Yeah, that's good.
So they'll still be there when they go to the full board, not stricken.
Right.
Yes, they will. Yes,
they'll still be there.
They will still be there. Yes, they will not be stricken. They will be in effect.
Just regular type.
Regular type. Yes. Cleaned up.
So do we have a motion to that effect?
Like motion.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Okay. All opposed? I just want to make sure. So the motion carries. Appreciate y'all coming and giving us your perspective. That does help. And I know it's hard to wait through all the meeting.
Yeah, sorry we had you with the kid at the end.
Okay, now we
Oh,
still have
we-
this one.
We still got one more, Lisa. Keep
Yeah.
us on the clock now.
We have one other text amendment proposal, which is self-storage mini warehouses height requirement.
That is correct. So this comes out of a discussion from one of our previous meetings. So we're seeing a increase in a desire for self-storage facilities that are internal, that have internal access, not external access. Most of these are requesting to be 2 floors. In a previous meeting, I made mention that previously what you would see is, you would drive in, you'd pull up, it'd all be outside. There was a height limitation on those outside units with the intention of them being outside units, I believe, which was 18 feet. However, as it is read literally, it's about the regulation on the land use. It doesn't matter whether it's internal or external. So what we are left with into the regulations as they are stated today is no matter whether they are internal and air conditioned or external, you have a height limit of 18 feet, whereas the general zoning is, I believe, in that district C2 is 35 feet. So what we are proposing through this text amendment to allow for these 2 floor units is a 24 feet requirement on that land use that would still be smaller than the overall 35, but it would allow for 2 floor internal. Because what we were seeing is we had a submittal and we approved the special exception, but they gave us a concept plan of a real scrunch down second floor, if you will, that just doesn't, when I started really looking at it from a building perspective, just didn't really make much sense. And I don't really feel that a 24 feet requirement, I still think it keeps it below other height limitations. And so I do think this is something that would make sense. We're getting multiple requests on these internal storage facilities. So
I think that'd be reasonable.
So really, you're just kind of hitting a compromise. Is that what you're doing? To let it be higher so you can have 2 floors, but not take it to the 35 feet of the zoning because that just seems too high.
Yeah, I don't think I think you'll find, so these internal storage units are getting much more popular in other states. When I was in Texas, we started to see a lot of them. And there was pushback from a lot in the city when those height limits were the same as the other buildings, because you don't want your city to look like it's a storage facility city. So yes, that's a long way of me answering the question. Yes, I do view that as a compromise.
Because in Murfreesboro, they look like office buildings, and they kind of, to me, look better than those that are.
They probably have very stringent design requirements on those buildings to make them look like an office building, or to make them look that they're not self-storage. But today we don't really have those requirements. Now, if we, when we do a rewrite, those are that's a much larger fix than a one little text edit. That's something that we could look to do to increase those requirements. But I think in the interim, this is a good compromise and makes sense. Those building plans, that the last one that came before us, I mean, they showed that they could do it. But as I was looking at them, I'd say, I really don't want them to do it. I'd rather them build it 24 and make it respectable. So that's kind of how this came about.
Do we have a motion on this?
Was there something about you can't sell anything out of it? So what do you do with it? Because, that was
Yeah, we did discuss that. There was an additional item that was brought. Right now, there's a prohibition on these self-storage facilities for you can't basically set up shop and make and sell things out of it. Jim had brought up the idea of, well, maybe you could do it once a year for kind of like a spring cleaning, because sometimes these owners, people leave stuff there, right?
I wasn't even thinking of that. I think some people just abandon those
I was gonna
things.
say, the
That's what I
falls.
mean,
And then
abandonment.
once a year, they'll have, once every 2 years, so they'll have an auction, one that Saturday afternoon, to get rid of all the stuff. That's the only thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to have some way to get rid of it.
That's what, for the owner too, the defaulting tenant, I mean, you've got to.
Yeah. So we still have that on the to-do list, and that's why I'm glad Sean is here. Because
They would get a permit to have that auction.
yeah, we'd have to have a permit. There are a few steps we'd have to research. And in the absence of having a city planner, we just haven't been able to get to that request yet.
The way I read that prohibition in here, I think at least what I think it intends to prevent is, like me going out and renting a storage unit, keeping all my crap in there. And every weekend I go and have a flea market.
So yard
Sit out in front of my
sale.
unit and sell stuff out of it.
That is what it's intended to prohibit.
So,
yeah,
we may have gone overboard in that we also prevent the owner from having sales of abandoned units.
that's exactly right.
So,
I'd agree with that
I think
completely.
that, like you say, that's to be looked at.
Yeah, and like I said, that's a perfect thing for Sean to dive into.
Yeah.
And of course but now that we have a second staff member,
That'll help.
or an extra staff member, we're gonna be able to tackle a lot of those things that they don't have someone immediately banging down the door, but yet we know are issues.
So do we have a motion on this? The increase from 18 to 24?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Any other business?
I will mention that we have staff updates, just to let everyone be aware. I think a lot of people may know this, but just want to let it be known in the public. Lyndon Basil, who was with our department for about 4 years, he is our city's stormwater and GIS person. He is still the city stormwater and GIS contact. However, he has moved to the Public Works Department. He is no longer with our department. But his job responsibilities, about 80% of them have stayed the same. Most cities do stormwater through Public Works. We were an oddball. He is working a lot more hands-on with the guys who are actually out there digging the ditches. But he's also maintaining the city's GIS as well. So I just want to announce that. I have had a couple inquiries. Are you guys going to be hiring someone to replace that position? And my answer is, well, the job responsibilities have shifted to the other departments. So just want everyone to be clear about that. So should we have, and I'm sure we will have, stormwater issues that are needed on a plat, he is still available to come and speak to the planning commission on those items.
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, and he did have a short 3-day reprieve from the city, but that's another story for another day.
So do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All right, we're adjourned.
License for what? Contractor's license. I have to check with Kate.
I wanted to ask that too, but I was afraid.
Yeah, I'd have to ask about that.
Y'all have a card.
Yeah, he may not be, well, that would be one of the things that we would require. I mean, we're not, there's a lot of things that need to be ramped up on that. And they say they want to do it now, but
They always had me.
What's seen from
Still
the
thanks,
I'm trying to remember. I think, well, you know what, actually, the more I think about it, see that he likes to say, well, we're getting a permit, why you stop? Yeah, we gave you a permit to use residential. I mean, the structure, we didn't give you a permit to commercial structure. And yeah, I'd have to ask Katie on the details of that, but at one time, they were saying this, we were gonna make this a primary residence. And then they went back and said, no, we're not going to, when they noticed how much it was gonna cost. And I still don't, I appreciate Jerry kind of probing it, because I still don't believe that they understand.
I don't think they do.
They don't.
That's not any of it. He said.
By going through this process.
Oh, that's perfect. I was like, what's next? Oh, okay, okay.
Woodwork in there.
It takes an
Madam, 100 years ago or something. Give them molding.
All right, so you'll give me a
door
call.
frames or something.
All right, thank you so much. Talk to you later.
I don't know how, you know.
No, not yet.
liability
I
issues.
ain't working, so hopefully we'll be.
They're never our
making up
plan,
for a place.
you know.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
never rough enough.
Getting settled in.
yeah, that's true. And we're trying to, we're trying to balance it, and it's,
You've got to be
Yes, it's very limited, yeah.
He says he's gonna do
Leah
this.
find you something, if it's something out there.
They have.
I'll tell you that.
before we issued the demo permit, it was more like, yeah, we want to do it, but we'll get around to it when we feel like it. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we'll do it now. That's the big difference from our perspective, is that, okay, well, if you're gonna do it now, show us,
Yeah, so now
show
you
us.
have to wait.
Yeah, now, yeah.
That's exactly. I get break on the ground, everything needs work.
There you go. I'm worried about people walking down the street.
Now, I think we have closed it off in a way that minimizes the impact of that. I mean, we've put barriers